All right, we're going to be working in lesson 5-4 today, which is point slope form. All right, and so point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, now your m is still your slope, so that hasn't changed. And when we're talking about coordinate points here, the y1 and the x1 is going to be your coordinate point. This is where you're going to be plugging numbers in. Okay, so this is your coordinate point. Okay, now please take note here. Right here it says point slope form. So guess what? You're going to need a coordinate point and a slope to write this equation. Okay, so what the name is exactly what you are going to need to write the equation. Okay, all right, so if we come down here, looking at the first example here, it says write the point slope form, and then we're going to be graphing it. Okay, so now when you look at this guy here, this is your x1, y1. All right, and they've already given you your slope right here. So you've got m equals -2. So what we're going to do is we're just going to plug it into this equation. So it's going to be y minus, and now plug in that y1 value. Well, your y1 value is -2 equals, all right, next thing we're plugging in is the slope. So our slope in this case will be -2, x minus, and then this says x1, so this is where you're plugging in your x value of 3. Okay, and that is point slope. The only thing I ask that you do is if you do have a double negative, to go ahead and make sure that we make that a positive. All right, so really we would want y plus 2 equals -2 x minus 3. And that's your answer. There's no extra work that needs to be done here other than making that double negative a positive. Okay, all right, so now when we graph it, I like to just use the information that they've given us. There's a lot of ways to graph, but what I like to do is just use this guy. So let's start with this coordinate point. Let's graph 3, -2. So 3, -2, put a point there. Okay, now I'm going to run my slope off of this point right here. So this is kind of like your start point. Okay, so now -2, right, would be the same thing as -2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1, and I'm going to take it off of this start position right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead down 2, right 1, and I'm going to put a point in, another point, and I'm going to go ahead and put a couple points the other way. Now, please note, you only need 2 to 3 points at this point to draw your lines. I don't care if you have lines all the way across or not. Wow, that was a terrible line. Let's try that one more time. Okay, and then make sure you put arrows on the end. Okay, all right, so let's try it again. Okay, so again, you have a coordinate point, right, and a slope. So coordinate point, again, this is going to be your x1, y1. Okay, so we're going to plug into this guy up here, right, plug it into this, just use this. So I've got y minus, and my y value in this case is 1, so y minus 1 equals 2/3 x minus, and then your x value in this case is -3, so minus -3. Again, just go ahead and make that a positive for me, and that's your point slope. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and graph. So again, I'm just going to start at this point right here, -3, 1. So -3, 1, I'm going to put a point there. And then I'm going to run my slope of 2/3 off of this point right here. So I'm going to go up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple points in there. Again, 2, 3 points, and then go ahead and draw your line. Arrows on the end. Okay. Now, on C and D, it's the same thing that we're going to be doing up here. The difference is they gave us 2 points. So we have one of the points that we need, but we don't have the slope. So if they don't give us slope, we're going to need to find slope first. So we'll find slope, and then we're going to do just what we did right here on A and B. Okay, so let's go ahead and review. We find slope, right? So if we're thinking about the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so there's x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so again, just subtract your y's. So 4 minus negative 3 over, subtract your x's, 1 minus negative 2. Okay, so double negatives become positives, so I end up with 7/3 is my slope. Okay, now it does not matter which coordinate point you choose. You can pick either one. You can pick this guy or this guy, so just pick one. Doesn't matter. So I'm just going to pick the first one. So I'm going to use that -2, -3. All right, so now we're going to plug in. Again, we're using this guy way up here. So now we're going to write it in this form because we now have a slope and we have a point. So coming back down here, I'm going to do y minus my y value. And so in this case, my y value is going to be -3 equals 7/3 x minus my x value, which is -2. All right, again, if you have double negatives, go ahead and just clean that up and make it positive. Okay, and that's your answer. Now, if you were to choose the one, whoops, that was not the highlighter. Let's try that again. The 1 negative or 1, 4 there, okay? It would be y minus your y value, which is 4, 7/3 x minus your x value, which is 1. So you can give me either answer here, and they'll both be correct. So I don't care which point you use, so just pick a point, either answer. You only need to give me one of them, though, okay? All right, so now when we're graphing, again, I like to just use what they've given me. So they've given me 2 coordinate points, so I'm just going to graph the 2 coordinate points and draw my line. So -2, -3, put a point there. 1, 4, graph that coordinate point, and then draw your line. Okay? Now, if you're thinking about slope, well, that's 7/3. Well, look here. You go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 3. So you're getting to that same point even if you're using your slope. You still get those 2 same points. All right? All right, I want you to take a second. I want you to pause the video, and let's try D on your own. Okay. So first thing we've got to do is we got to find slope, right? So we're taking our 3 minus our 6, subtract those y's. So 3 minus 6 over, and in this case, it's going to be 3 minus -6. So on the top, I get a -3. On the bottom, I get a 9. Now make sure you're reducing your fractions. That part still stands. So we're going to have -1/3 as our slope. All right, now again, I don't care which coordinate point you pick. It's up to you. So if I'm using -6, 6, I have y minus my y value, which is 6. My slope is -1/3, x minus my x value, which is -6. Okay, again, go ahead and clean that up. So that's one of the answers you could have had. Now, if you prefer to use the 3, 3, then you would have had y minus 3 equals -1/3 x minus your x value, which is a 3. And that could be your second answer. So again, you don't need both, just one or the other. You get to pick, okay? All right, and then on your graph, again, like I said, I'm just going to use the stuff they gave me here. So when I look at -6, 6, I got a point way up here, and then 3, 3, and draw my line. Arrows on the end. Okay. Now, if you're thinking about slope being -1/3, right? Down 1 over 3, down 1 over 3, down 1 over 3. So we do end up there eventually. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go to the second page here. And so they're kind of working backwards on this. So now they're asking you to write the equation, but they're going to give you the picture instead. Okay, so now we still need the same 2 pieces of information. We need a coordinate point and we need the slope. Okay, we have to have those 2 pieces of information. So let's start with the coordinate point. See, they have 2 coordinate points marked here. Pick one. It doesn't matter which one you use, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and just use this top one here of 1, 3. Okay, so I've got a coordinate point. Now I need to use slope. So I'm going to do rise over run. Okay, so I am rising, count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm rising 4, and then I'm running 1, 2, 3. so I'm running across 3. So now if I'm thinking about rise over run, my rise is 4, my run is 3. So in this case, my slope is going to be 4/3. Okay, so now again, you have a point, you have a slope. Let's write point slope form. Y minus my y value, which was 3. My slope is 4/3. X minus my x value of 1. And that's your answer. Now again, if you wanted to use this other coordinate point down here, you could. So that would be 2, -1. All right, and so if you wanted to use that guy, you would do y minus your y value, which is -1. Your slope would be 4/3. And then it's x minus your x value of 2. Again, just make that double negative a positive. Okay? All right, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try B on your own. Okay, so for looking at this guy, first off, coordinate point, I'm going to bet most of you probably picked out this guy right here, which is fine. So it's 1, 1. Okay, the other coordinate point you could have picked out here would have been -3, 4. Okay, now you need to do your slope. So again, rise over run. So I'm rising 3. And then I got to be careful here because I am running backwards, right? We're going backwards. So my run across would be -4. Okay, so my slope, rise over run, or -3/4. Okay, so now if you pick the coordinate point 1, 1, it's going to be y minus your y value of 1 equals -3/4 x minus your x value of 1. Or you could have used this other guy up here. Again, you only need one. Y minus your y value of 4. Your slope is still -3/4. And then x minus your x value of -3. So again, make that double negative a positive. So either one of these answers would get you full credit. Okay, so now, next part here, example 3, they're asking you to identify the slope and the coordinate point. Okay, so when I look at this guy right here, slope's kind of the easy one. You just pull that puppy right out. So this right here is your slope. So my slope is equal to 1/2. And then when I'm doing a coordinate point, this is an x, y coordinate point, right? X, y. Now, we have to be super careful here, though. So I'm going to write point slope form down here, right above here. So if you're looking at point slope, notice how there's negatives here. So if we think about that, if I kind of come back up here and look at this guy, when we plugged in 1, 3, right, 1, 3, it was a +1, but we plugged it in, it turned negative because there was a negative here. Same thing, when it was 3, when we plugged it in, it became a -3 because of the negative sign right there, okay? So when we pull it out, we got to change the signs back over. So instead of -3, your x value is 3, and your y value will be -5, okay? So again, I'm just pulling it from right here. I have a -3, but keep in mind that negative is with the actual formula, so really I'm just pulling out the 3. Here I have a +5, which means I had to have a double negative here in the middle to get that positive. So my y value, since it's positive, is going to be a -5. Okay, I want you to take a second, pause the video, and try B on your own. Okay, so on this guy, my slope here should have been -3. And your coordinate point, your x value is +9. So that means I have a -9. And then here it's a -4. So when I pull it out, it's going to turn over to a +4. All right, last problem we're going to look at. So the table shows the number of gallons, Y, in a tank after X hours. And you can see here they've got X is your time, Y is how many gallons you have. The first question is point slope form. Okay, so again, I've got coordinate points, right? We've got lots of coordinate points. All of these guys are coordinate points. Lots of coordinate points. But what I don't have is I don't have my slope. So we need to find slope first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write 2 coordinate points out here. It does not matter which 2 coordinate points you pick. I a lot of times just pick the top 2. But again, you could pick any 2 points out of this grid. Doesn't matter. You can do 5, 7,070, and 8, 10,082 if you wanted. Okay, does not matter. Okay, so now your slope. 4,570 minus 3,320 over 3 minus 2. Okay, So now when I do my slope there, I subtract on the top and get 1,250 over 1. So really my slope is just 1,250. Okay, so now I have a slope and I've got 4 different coordinate points to choose from. Now again, you're going to see that a lot of times I'm just going to pick the first one and use it. Again, you can do whatever one you want there though. All right, so for my point slope, I've got y minus my y value up here, which is 3,320, equals my slope, which was 1,250, x minus my x value, which is 2. Okay, so again, I'm just using this coordinate point right here. Actually, let me move that over a little bit. So I'm using this coordinate point right here and the slope that we found. Okay, now in this case it says slope-intercept form. So I'm going to kind of write that off the side. We've got to know what slope-intercept form is to answer the question. So keep in mind that that is y equals mx plus b. So what they're really just wanting you to do here when they say that is they want you to get that y by itself. They're just asking you to solve for y. Okay, so if I'm going to solve for y here, I'm going to start by distributing that 1250 to both parts. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of put my work down here just so I have a little bit of room. So I've got y minus 3,320 equals 1250x minus 2,500 when I multiply. So when I take the 1250 times the 2, that's how I'm getting that 2,500. Okay, now again, we're still trying to isolate that y. So I'm going to add 3,320 to both sides. Okay, so that cancels. So y equals 1250x plus 820 when I put those together. Okay, so that's going to be my slope-intercept form right there. Again, slope-intercept, just get y by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and write that up here for part B. Y equals 1,250x plus 820. Okay, so now what's the slope and what does it represent? Well, let's come back up here. First off, we already know the slope is 1250. So what does it represent? Well, let's put the labels on it and find out. Okay, so when I'm looking at this guy right here, these are my gallons, right? So gallons, I'm going to go ahead and write that in there. I've got gallons per, right? That's your fraction bar. And then, okay, what does this guy right here mean? Well, that's hours. So gallons per hour. Okay, so my slope is 1250. And what does it mean? Since it's positive, it's increasing by 1,250 gallons per hour. Okay, so in other words, right, the tank, maybe I should have put the word tank in there, but the tank is increasing by 1,250 gallons per hour. Okay, all right, so what is the y-intercept? Okay, so this is kind of a little review for you. Your y-intercept, right, is your b value or your start position. Well, if I come down here and look, my y-intercept is 820. Okay, so 820. Now, what does 820 mean? Well, what does the y's mean? So this would be gallons, right? So this is just going to be your starting gallons in the tank. So you have 820 gallons in the tank at the start. Or you can say they start with 820 gallons in the tank, something along those lines. All right, and that concludes lesson 5-4 notes.